Got it. This meeting is being live streamed on Facebook. Thank you, Facebook. Okay, welcome. Hey, welcome, Karen, and welcome, everyone. This is day 3 of 3 questions in 15 minutes with awesome people as part of my new little adventure in visibility. So welcome, Karen. Karen is Karen is world famous. I've got lots of things that I want to introduce you to. Karen is amazing, one of my favorite human beings. You're coming to us from New Mexico, USA, and Karen is the founder of Live Another Way and the Live Another Way system, and the award-winning author and publisher of Be Unmessable, which I asked you to grab just before we jumped on, so we may as well wave it around. Yeah, navigate any stressful situation, a conversation, or conflict, which I think we could all use, well, a little bit of that anytime, but particularly right now. I'm Morna Haist, the founder of Revolutionary Woman Global, and without further ado, let's jump into our 3 questions. Okay, Karen, here's the first question for you. Karen, what does it mean to be unmessable? What does it mean to be unmessable?
Being unmessable is really being in the stand of any circumstance and being able to create possibilities even when it seems like there are none. I mean, that's really what it is, right? There's always stuff being thrown at us. I think a lot of people are feeling really uncertain these days, especially with everything that's going on in the world. COVID, there's a global pandemic. There's laws that are being changed in states that people are just livid about. Just a lot of uncertainty, and to be able to stand in the face of any circumstance, whether it's being directed at you personally or even just being around it sometimes, it just creates this uncertainty, and it hijacks us. And so we really want to be able to come across anything in our life and be able to create possibilities for it and stay in alignment with what we really want for our lives. So that's what unmessable is.
I love that, Karen. So what you're saying is that, I guess kind of the opposite of that, when we're messable with, when we can be messed with, does that mean that we're kind of feeling, this is question number 2, by the way, does that mean that I might throw in a bonus one. Does that mean that we are more at the mercy of what's happening in our circumstances? And I say that because, you're right. There seems to be, and of course it depends who you are, so much happening right now. And we could also just say that that's the nature of life, right? Like we've always got stuff that we need to deal with, that we need to work with. And I'm really curious about this word possibilities that you've used. What do you mean by that? And what do you mean by being able to create possibilities?
Well, like you were saying, life can really mess with you. So I guess when life is messing with me and there's things, maybe people are messing with me unintentionally, maybe I'm feeling triggered or activated. My brain just doesn't work like it does normally when I'm relaxed. And, each one of us is trying to get somewhere in our lives. We're trying to create a vision for our lives or create something, and we want life to be a certain way. But when we keep reacting to all these different things, our brains are not able to think of really how to get there. And so the possibilities are when we can come up with creative ideas of maybe the people that we need to talk to, right? It's like, let's say you want to get a job and you're finding yourself activated all the time. It's really hard to put yourself in that place and start staying connected to the places where you're going to find that networking opportunity or that right person to talk to, or maybe, the the words that you really want to say or the things that you really want to convey on your resume. It's like coming up with other ways to get to where you want to go. It's like when you're on a trip, or in the book, I talk about the GPS system, right? You're on a plane or something and your GPS is set for New York and you're going there, but all of a sudden there's turbulence or there's something getting in your way. And this is like all the stuff in the media and just the people in our lives and regular stressors and global pandemics.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just get hijacked by it. We don't think of how we can really get to where we're going. And we wind up, feeling like we're off course, or we feel like we're not going where we really want to go. And we find ourselves being unhappy or stuck, and possibilities are really just different avenues to where we want to go.
Right. I love that. I love the plane analogy, because I can think about, I think many of us have been in a plane when it's experiencing turbulence, which is such a metaphor for life.
Yeah. Totally.
And then, the pilot's job at that time, in conjunction with air control, is to find us, as they usually rise or lower the plane, or maybe take a slightly different route. 9 times out of 10, though, if they're going to New York, they don't end up somewhere else unless it's an extreme, unless it's an extreme situation. But I love that, because, if the pilot isn't able to access executive function in that moment, isn't able to access the part of the brain that can actually create possibilities for us, then it's such a limiting situation. The plane's going to have to go through that turbulence, and goodness knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, totally. Or it has to land or something. Maybe it has to take a pause and really reassess what needs to be done, which is kind of what we do, right? Sometimes life creates automatic pauses for us.
Right. And I think that to me is really getting to the heart of this idea of being unmessable. You're not saying that, you're walking around and nothing is ever, exactly. No. I know you're not saying that. Yeah. I know. I want to make that clear for people and offer that contrast that it's not this myth that if we are a certain way, nothing bad will ever happen, or we can avoid life's challenges, because we can't. I think for me, one of my biggest takeaways from the book is that it's really about kind of how and when we bounce back, or how quickly can we access those possibilities again, rather than staying down for the count.
Yeah, it's that emotional hangover, right?
Right.
Like, how long do you want to be in the emotional hangover?
Yeah.
Because years ago, if I look at what I was like years ago, I had emotional hangovers that lasted weeks and weeks. I'd have an argument maybe with my husband, and I'd be so activated by something, and it was like, it just got in the way of just normal life. And I'd be in this just ball of mess. And now it's like, okay, we'll have a blowout. And it's like, all right, we work our way through it. And, an hour later, we're good, which is way better.
Right. And I love you said that, because I think sometimes, again, there's this myth that we're all striving for this kind of magical situation where we're never arguing with our spouse, or where, no, I think anyone who's alive and having any kind of meaningful life is going to experience conflict, and so to me, it feels like an empowering stance to know that actually we can enter into these situations with more confidence. And that leads into my third and final question, which is some version of, and you kind of started to allude to this, just part of your own journey here, and just sharing, not the whole journey, because we've only got another 5 minutes in our little 3 questions, 15 minutes.
You don't have time for the whole journey.
Yeah, like this is but a little bit about your story, and you've experienced a decent amount of stuff in your life that's going to mess with and I think through these situations. But tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming unmessable.
Well, just I guess briefly, then there would be panic attacks, depression, relationship challenges, divorce. Then we wound up getting back together, got remarried, and we lost everything, and we wound up homeless. And all of those different challenges really forced me in a way to address that, okay, life is going to push me around, and I really need to come up with some way of dealing with it, and having something that I can kind of go back to each time and go, okay, if I just follow this process, I know how to navigate it. I've done it enough times now. Now it works with any sort of stressful situation. I mean, it could be, the lady at the store who won't give me what I want now. And I'm like, all right, I'm working my process.
Right.
But it gave me lessons that made me realize that everything that I was going through really wasn't for nothing. There was value in it. There was lessons to be learned. There was gifts in it where I learned that even though I didn't have anything after we lost, our business and our home and all of our stuff and wound up in the forest, we still had a whole bunch. And it was recognizing all the abundance that we did have in our life and the gratitude for what we did have that really helped me to put my own brain into a place where I could accept what had happened, and then realize the gift or the lessons that I was learning in it, and then really turn it into something that actually really turned into be a cool thing, because now I got a book.
Yeah. Well, not just a book, but an award-winning book, and a bestseller. And what I really love about it is, and we're going to kind of finish off here. I mean, firstly, you got a little taste of Karen's story, which is in the book, and it's a pretty remarkable story. And the beginnings of the process that you developed, which I've been through, I've done, and I use. And I think I just want to finish off on this point, that why it's so useful to have a process, or why it's so useful to have something to turn to, is that it helps us in those situations when we are on autopilot, when we are hijacked, and we can't necessarily think of those things for ourselves. But I can go to my process. Actually, just even thinking about the process helps me, because it starts to just shift my thinking. And open up more possibilities for me. And also it does give me confidence that I can navigate the situations that I come up against on a daily basis. One last thing I want to say before we go is that for everyone watching, the background that you're seeing behind Karen right now, it's not one of those Zoom fake backgrounds that people take a picture of and put up behind. That is actually where Karen is right now, on your amazing property in New Mexico, which I got to visit a couple of weeks ago when we did some work together there. It's just incredible. I want to close off by honoring you and your work. And I think that what you have offered the world is particularly relevant right now. And if folks want to grab a copy of Be Unmessable, it is available on all of the usual places to buy it, like Amazon, etc. Karen will pop links to it below, and then just pop links to where people can find you. Karen's doing a video series next week where she's going through the steps in the Another Way process, so that you can learn to live another way, so that you can become unmessable. It is gold, and I highly recommend folks find out where that is, and Karen will put a link to it below as well. That Karen, that was 3 questions in 15 minutes.
It was.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. That was great. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, we're going to sign off by waving to everyone, because I haven't figured out how to end this. So we'll wave. Bye, everyone. Yeah, we'll have some of that. Let us know your key takeaways from our chat, and we will see you really soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Morna.